Hello and welcome. Today we are taking a full look at the Spyra 3 Mark 1. If you're not familiar with Spyra, they make some very high-end water blasters. So the Spyra 3 is electric. It has a indicator screen and all these kinds of modes that we're going to get into. It is absolutely feature packed. Before we go any further, Spyra did send this blaster to me, so big thanks to them. Of course, I'm going to talk about what I like, but I'm certainly not going to hold back on the negatives. So let's jump right in and see what you get in the box. In the box, we do get the Spyra 3 itself. We get a pretty darn high quality USB-C charging cable, and we get a little cleaning tool for where it sucks the water into the tank. That's a pretty thoughtful thing to include. I think that is awesome. We also do get the instructions, which talk all about the features, but also some safety things like, of course, don't charge it when it's wet. It recommends in the instructions not to fully submerge the blaster in water, which is pretty important to note. So of course the blaster can get wet, but maybe don't fully submerge it in like a pool. And of course it goes over how to use all the different features, which we will go over. So let's take a look at the Spyra 3. First off, as far as the build quality, it is absolutely phenomenal. This is one of the heftiest, highest quality blasters that I think I've had my hands on. As far as ergonomics, we do have a grip here. All the black you see is rubber. When this thing is getting wet during battle, I'm sure that's going to come in very handy. We also have a very serviceable stock and front grip. I will say when it comes to the main handle, this is a bit of a tight thumbhole stock. So if you're not a fan of thumbhole stocks, you're probably not gonna like this, but I do think it helps that this is a softer rubber, and I personally do not mind thumbhole stocks all that much, so I'm okay with it, but it's certainly worth noting if you have a problem with the thumbhole stock designs, at least the ones that are a little bit tight. When you first get this blaster, you're gonna need to charge the battery, which I've already done on this one, but how do you do it? Now I mentioned the USB-C cable that you get in the box, so pretty much you're gonna plug that into a wall brick, plug it into the wall, and then this blaster has a USB-C port for charging right here, protected behind a rubber flap. In the instructions it says that it could take up to 6 hours, but my blaster only took about 2.5 hours to charge. Of course, there are lots of factors to consider with charging speed, so your mileage may vary, but that's my experience. While it's charging, you do have an indicator right here that will show you the battery percentage. When it is at 100%, you can of course unplug it. Also on the bottom of the blaster, you see this metal thing right here. That is the on-off button. So to turn on the blaster, we simply press this once. And I'm not sure how well you're going to be able to see that, but we can see the screen on here right now, which shows our battery level off to the right, and it shows our water capacity level, which is currently 0 because I have not filled it up. In the instructions, I also found that this button can be used for a software reset if you hold it down for 6 seconds, which is definitely nice in case of some kind of software issue. On the left side only, we have this selector switch, which shows game modes. We have League, Burst, and Open. We're gonna go over what those mean in a second. Right up front, this is how you're going to fill the blaster. Right here we have max immersion depth. So you're going to dip the front of the blaster into the water, push the trigger forward, and it's going to fill up. So we do have a bucket of water right here. We're gonna dip it to the max immersion depth, and we're gonna push the trigger forward. And that's about as long as it takes. And now we can see on this screen, hopefully you can see that it shows 100% water capacity. Once the water is in this blaster, it's pretty hefty, gotta say, but certainly manageable, especially with the stock and foregrip. Currently we are in the League mode, which I think is a pretty standard semi-automatic rinse and repeat mode, but let's see. Pulling the trigger once, let's see how fast we can fire it. So it seems in this mode, I tried to rapid fire and it doesn't quite keep up with the rate of fire. In the League mode, you can get off 3 shots and then it has to kind of refill that chamber, but they are very impressive shots. League will do 3 powerful shots in a row, but then it needs to refill before you can continue. but I think open is maybe the more unrestricted semi-auto, but let's see. Here we are on the open setting, and let's see how fast I can pull the trigger. That's phenomenal. So open is just completely let loose. You can fire as fast as you can to empty the tank with no delay. So I guess the main difference between League and Open is that Open is unrestricted and League is probably better proportioned. As in, your shots are going to be more consistent in power level and you're going to conserve some water. So that's pretty darn cool, but now let's try Burst. All good, automatically stopped filling up once it's full. And in the burst mode, we are going to get a 3-round burst per 1 trigger pull, which is pretty cool. That's crazy, that's awesome. Oh, the kickback. Now, if we set the blaster to open and we hold down the trigger, you get full auto. You can seamlessly go back and forth between full auto and rapid semi-auto. If you hold the trigger down in League mode, you hear that noise? That's loading a big shot. So when we release the trigger, we get a huge burst of water. And you can do that as many times as there's enough water in the tank to sustain such a large shot. So to recap on the modes, we have open, where you can fire as fast as you want, and when you hold the trigger down, you get full auto. Then you have burst, which is somewhat restricted. You can't pull the trigger as fast as you can, but every time you pull the trigger, you get a quick 3-shot burst. Then we have League, in which you have more consistent single shots, and though restricted in how fast you can pull the trigger, if you hold the trigger down, the blaster will load up for an extra big shot, which will be fired when you release the trigger. This thing is absolutely phenomenal. I love it. You have all these different fantastic modes, and everything on this blaster just feels so high quality. The trigger is beyond snappy, one of the most satisfying triggers I've pulled. And the mechanics of this blaster are practically flawless. In the past, I did review a very similar blaster to this. It was the Mongoose S2, I believe. And while I did like that blaster in my initial review, and I still like it, it does just feel like the Spyra is a more refined version of that product. Now that blaster has some merits in that it has LEDs and a couple other features, but I think the Spyra 3 is just a better product if you're gonna go with a water blaster at this price range. But if you guys want a full comparison video comparing this blaster, the Spyra 3, to the Mongoose S2, I could definitely make that happen, but as of right now, I am very satisfied with the Spyra 3. This thing definitely stands out as a phenomenal water blaster. So if you're in the market for a high-end water blaster, I couldn't recommend the Spyra 3 more. Now for some people, you could have just as much fun with a $20 Nerf Super Soaker, but if you are wanting a high-end water blaster, this blaster will not disappoint, because it is exactly what it is advertised to be, and that is a state-of-the-art, high-end performance water blaster. Now if you do want to check this thing out, I will have the link in my description. Please let me know if you have any questions on the Spyra 3, and I'll do my best to answer them. I'd love to hear your thoughts in general about this blaster. Have a good one, subscribe for more, and happy blasting.